and processes being in line with regulations. The Nifty Metal Index hits a 2-month high. This is on the back of China's decision to slash the reserve requirement ratio by 50 basis points. Ahead of the festive season, gold prices witness all-time highs. MCX saw a record close of 74,152, whereas spot gold has seen an increase of over 17.5% since the start of the year. The biggest names from day 2 of the JP Morgan India Summit speak to NDTV Profit. Anu Iyengar, Global Head of Advisory and M&A, shares her outlook on India's valuations and her journey. HDFC Bank eyes sale of up to 70,000 crore rupees worth loan assets in the next few quarters. This is to free up liquidity. This is also an NDTV Profit exclusive. Female labour force participation is on a rise from 37% to 41.2%. This according to the periodic labour force survey by the Government of India. Big blow for Karnataka's Chief Minister Siddaramaiah from the High Court. The Karnataka High Court allows the probe initiated against him by the governor in a case of misappropriation of government land. Says he will respond after reading the copy of the order. The much-awaited Line 3 connecting the Bandra Kurla complex to the RA colony will hopefully be commissioned in the first week of October, says the Mumbai Metro Rail Corporation. We get you the first glimpses of the station. Good evening and welcome. You are watching NDTV Profit and this is Profit 360. I'm Nupur Talwar Suri. Well, the markets, of course, are on a roll today and the Nifty reached the awaited 26,000 figure and the Sensex breached the 85,000 mark. Harsha has the details of what drove the market rally. Harsha, banks, of course, driving some of that momentum.
Well, we chugged along fairly healthily towards the 26K mark, 0.5% higher on the Nifty 50. Let's pull up the heat map, see which stocks really moved the market today. And you'll see two-wheeler counters, both Bajaj and Hero stood out. But outside of that, M&M within the auto pack did well. In the auto pack, Eicher Motors at the bottom of the pile on the Nifty 50. So the auto pack really having dominated in terms of the gainers and losers. When you're looking at some of the other names which did well, SBI Life, HDFC Life, life insurers, as well as SBI, 2.5% higher for all those three. Very, very strong day on all those three counters. You also had a Reliance chipping in, you had an HDFC Bank chipping in. Let's pull up the contributories and we'll see exactly that. Kotak Mahindra was up 1.7% as well, and HDFC and ICICI, the top gainer and top loser in terms of contributories on the Nifty 50. That's how it played out, along with IT stocks. Let's pull up the heat map on the sectoral indices, and we'll see that within the Nifty Bank, the Nifty PSU Bank has really done well today, 3.5% higher after the week it had last week. So clearly reversing some of that underperformance of last week, brushing it off, and the Nifty Private Bank not doing as well, and therefore the Nifty Bank landing up in that sweet spot, 0.5% or so higher, which supported the index. Along with that, of course, Realty did well in the broader markets. You had Nifty Pharma also up around 0.5% thereabouts. Let's pull up the broader markets. The Nifty mid cap as well as the small cap indices, both were up roughly 0.8 odd%. So a good day on the broader markets as well that we saw. Let's pull up the advanced decline and thereafter the list of BSE 500 top gainers, top losers. There you go. That's the advanced decline, how it shaped up pretty much through the day, healthy in terms of how the market shaped up. And the BSE 500 gainers, losers, there you go. Some cigarette counters on that list, VST, Godfrey Phillips, were big movers on the negative side of things, whereas Amber Enterprises 15% higher on the back of that Jefferies note offering a 19% upside.
All right, Harsh, thank you very much for that. Now, in fact, Nifty has hit a record high of 26,000 at closing with HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank and Bharti Airtel driving this feat. Now, Abhay Agarwal of Piper Serica Advisors says that long-term trends are looking positive despite volatility in the short run. Here is a slice of that conversation.
I think what is going to happen is that there will obviously be times when there will be profit booking and the markets will slide. There will be bouts of volatility. But I think if you look at the longer term trend, if you look at 2-year cycles or 3-year cycles, the trend is constantly up despite the bouts of profit booking in between. So valuations in India have always been questioned, but at the same time, we are a small economy by global standards, fastest growing economy. So if the global investors have to look at one place that they can bet with a lot of conviction for the next decade of growth in earnings, it is India. So I'm not surprised that, the kind of reduction in cost of capital globally will drive money to emerging markets, and I think India will continue to be a major beneficiary of that flow of capital.
All right, now 3 new listings made their market debut today. RK Developers and Northern Arc Capital shown on with premium listings, while Western Carriers listed at a discount. Shares of RK Developers opened strong on the BSE at over 175 rupees per share, reflecting a 37.4% premium over its issue price of 128 rupees. Now, on the NSE, the stock debuted at 175 rupees, marking a 36.7% premium. Northern Arc Capital also had a solid start, listing on the BSE at 351 rupees per share, 33.46% above its issue price of 263 rupees. Now, the stock opened on the NSE at 350 rupees per share, achieving a 33.07% premium. In contrast, Western Carriers struggled on its debut, listing on the BSE at 170 rupees per share, a 1.16% discount compared to its issue price of 172 rupees. Now, the stock fared similarly on the NSE, debuting at over 170 rupees, reflecting a 0.59% discount. Well, the Nifty Metal Index was at a 2-month high and was the top gaining sector for the day. This was on the back of China's announcement of rate cuts. Now, the Chinese central bank also announced measures to boost the floundering property market. Metal stocks that gained the most were Nalco, Tata Steel and MDC. The metal index gained close to 43,000 crore rupees in market cap. Now, the market regulator, Sebi, has now raised concerns over the quality of due diligence that was carried out by SME IPOs. Now, a probe on the regulations will now be carried out, and Charu is joining in with more details on this. Hi, Charu. Charu, who is under the regulator's scanner, and what has prompted such a severe sort of scrutiny?
Hi. So what has happened here is that over a dozen of domestic banks are under the scanner of Securities and Exchange Board of India, as the market regulator is worried or rather concerned about the due diligence carried out by these banks in these small and medium enterprises IPOs, or rather the SME IPOs. Now, we already know that the regulations governing SME IPOs are quite lax compared to the main board listings, and that is why the regulator is considering whether it can tighten these regulations, bring in more audits, bring in more checks and balances. However, this is not the first time that Sebi is walking towards this direction or taking these steps, as in March this year itself, Sebi chief Madhvi Puri Buch had spoken about the lack of due diligence and the issues concerning SME IPOs, and since then the regulator's vigil about the same has increased.
Right, Charu, thank you very much for joining us and bringing us all those details. Now, NDTV Profit has been giving you a comprehensive coverage of Day 2 of the JP Morgan Annual Summit, with China announcing rate cuts and the reserve reductions to boost the economy. Here's what the head of emerging markets, economics research and commodities, Jahangir Azir, and the head APAC equity, James Sullivan, had to say.
If you get a 60% tariff on China, the immediate impact is going to be on dollar CNY depreciating to offset that. That's nearly a 30% depreciation from the current level. Okay. 7 goes to 9. Clearly, PBOC is not going to let 7 go to 9. PBOC is going to stop it somewhere, because otherwise you're going to create a serious financial instability in China.
What most investors have done in China really for the past 2 years is increasingly wait for the data, not just put all their faith in the announcement. And so watching the flow through of those announcements into underlying macroeconomic data, into property sales into consumption expenditure will be absolutely critical.
And speaking to us, Anu Iyengar, the Global Head of Advisory and M&A at JP Morgan, painted a bright picture for Asian markets, emphasizing that the world's attention is sharply focused on India and Japan as key hubs for global investment.
How is the external world looking at India and which sectors? And you're exactly right. I think the sectors have changed a bit. I think there is more interest in digital infrastructure, more interest in energy transition, and that may be because those are the things that also the policy here is pushing, but it's much wider than just tech services, which is maybe where things started 10 years ago, whereas today it is a much broader level of interest in India. And I'd say that when you look at it from Europe, especially where growth is constrained in almost any part of Europe, and you're looking outward, the valuation is as much a challenge in the United States because the US valuations are higher than the European valuations. And you look in Asia primarily at two markets, Japan and India.
Now, Iyengar also shared an inspiring piece of her own journey, reflecting on how she went from aspiring to be an IAS officer to becoming the Global Head of Advisory and M&A at JP Morgan.
There's lots of similarities, actually, in terms of running, I guess, a part of a country and running a business. My father was an IAS officer, and so I got to see it at close quarters. And I found that job pretty interesting, actually, in terms of, because in that particular district or whatever it is that you're in charge of, you can really make a difference. So in some ways, that's why I say it's similar. It's about understanding your constituents, understanding the job at hand, mobilizing the resources in order to deliver and make a difference. And in some ways, that's exactly what you do when you run a business.
Now on to an NDTV Profit exclusive. Sources tell NDTV Profit that HDFC Bank is looking to sell 60,000 to 70,000 crore rupees worth of assets in the next few quarters. Vishwanath Nair is joining in with more details on this. Vishy, hi. Vishy, give us a detailed analysis of what this would mean for the bank.
India's largest private sector lender, HDFC Bank, is looking to offload between 16 and 70,000 crore worth of loans from its balance sheet, primarily because the bank is looking to manage its elevated credit deposit ratio. Now, after the merger with HDFC Limited was concluded in July of 2023, the bank has been looking at ways to bring down the asset portion of its balance sheet because the liabilities currently are lagging and the credit deposit ratio is over 100%, 105% now for HDFC Bank. And this is not a sustainable position to be for a lender like HDFC Bank because that reduces the headroom available for the lender to keep growing its balance sheet. What is going to happen with these 60 to 70,000 crore worth of loans is that they will be part of either pass-through certificate or some other market instrument, which will then be sold to potential investors, which includes mutual funds and insurance companies. And this will free up liquidity for HDFC Bank. To make the deal sweeter, HDFC Bank is likely to offer about 40 to 50 basis points higher than the contracted rate of these loans, which will help the investors to come out and invest in these instruments and take these loans off of HDFC Bank's balance sheet. And thereby, the bank will be able to manage its credit deposit ratio. Alongside that, of course, the bank is continuing its push for deposits.
All right, Vishy, thank you very much for that. Now, ahead of the festive season, gold prices have hit all-time highs, with the MCX seeing a record close of 74,152, whereas spot gold has seen an increase of over 17.5% since the start of the year. Ajay Keria, the Director of Keria Advisory Non-Agro, joins us on the phone line. Ajay, good evening. Thank you for speaking to us. Now, Ajay, of course, this marks a continuation of gold's upward trajectory as we've seen it in the past 2 days. What do you think are the factors that are driving gold prices?
Very good afternoon. I think the last week was a remarkable, or we can say milestone in the gold price history, because we have seen after 2020, this is the first rate cut by 0.5, and still the dovish tone is continue to be there for this upcoming period also, where Fed is expecting another 0.5 rate cut into 2024, and doors are open for 25 and 26 also. That makes gold as a very attractive bet, and maybe we can see some more new highs coming on domestic side also and international also. Meanwhile, technically market is slightly overbought. Maybe we can see some kind of pullback, but one should avoid any kind of short position and try to capture this pullback as a buying opportunity. We expect by this short term or by Diwali, we can see a new high on domestic gold prices, which can test nearly 76, 77 zone, whereas in international, gold prices may test 2700 level mark.
All right, so you are advising that people do buy gold at this time, even though it is at all-time highs?
Yeah, because see, currently the environment or whatever the factors which are actually supporting for gold is consistently helping. Like the dollar index is consistently going down. Numbers or recession fear are still prevailing in the market. Interest rate by central banks, every central bank, ECB, BOE, even we are expecting China can cut down. So all these factors are supporting. Even central bank buying are consistently going on. ETF buying is going on. So all these factors, I think, is contributing very good support for gold. Even we have seen last month when duty adjustment was been there and 9% fall was there on domestic. Immediately today we have recovered that fall. That clearly shows festival demand and Indian people are loving to buy gold because of ongoing uncertainty or valuation wise. So I think gold still seems to be very attractive bet as compared to any other asset class time being.
All right, Ajay, thank you very much for joining us on that. That's the advice coming in from Ajay Keria. Now, as per the annual periodic labour force survey for July 2023, June 24, the unemployment rate in India has remained steady, while female labour force participation registered a sharp rise in urban and rural areas. And NDTV Profit's Pallavi Nahata brings in more details on the report.
Now, as per the key findings of the annual periodic labour force survey, unemployment rate remains unchanged at about 3.2%. That's for 2023-2024, and that's for urban and rural areas combined. Urban unemployment rate saw a fall to 5.1% for the year, and that's compared to 5.4% that we had seen in the previous year. Compared to that, rural unemployment saw a modest uptick, coming in at 2.5%. That's compared to 2.4% the previous year. Now, what was also interesting was the rise that we saw in female labor force participation. Female labor force participation rose from 37% in 2022-2023 to 41.7% for 2023-2024. For males, the labor force participation ratio increased to 78.8%. That's compared to 78.5% in the previous year. Now, in rural areas, labor force participation rates increased to 63.7%. That's from about 60.8%. And for urban areas, it increased to 52%. That's from 50.4%. Still, what we must remember is that at least some of this rise that we saw in female labor force participation might have been from an increased share of female self-employed. The share of self-employed on an aggregate also rose from 57.3% in 2022-2023 to 58.4% the following year. The rise was across rural as well as urban areas, and it was led by a rise in the share of helpers in household enterprises on an aggregate. But in case of females specifically, it was actually a rise in the share of self-employed, whereas they were working, as owners. Now, what we also saw in the key findings was a modest uptick in the share of those employed in the agricultural sector. While manufacturing stayed steady, we saw somewhat of a decline in construction.
All right, Pallavi, thank you for that. Now on to another NDTV Profit exclusive in what could be some good news for Infosys. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, or the CBIC, is taking a relook at the 32,000 crore rupee GST notice that's been issued to IT major. Now, Shrimi Chaudhary is joining us with more details on this. Shrimi, tell us more, please, of what this could mean for Infosys.
So the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Custom, which is the nodal department of GST matter, is reviewing the Infosys case year-by-year basis. Remember, the Infosys has served pre-GST notice for overseas supply of services between July 2017-18 until FY22. What we are picking up from our sources is that the DGGI, which is the investigative arm of GST, is going to imply Rule 28 of Central GST Act, which basically deals with accurate tax assessment, particularly with the cases related to related party transaction. Remember, the companies served notices from both state GST authorities and also the central government authorities. However, Karnataka state has dropped all the charges and the pre-GST notices served to the company for first 5 years. But central authority has said that we will examine the matter and take a call, and they have just dropped one fiscal year notice, which is 17-18. But for the subsequent years, they said that they will examine that. Remember, that company, the IT major, in its exchange filing clearly stated that they are in full compliance with the both central and state authorities' regulation.
All right, thank you for that. Now, a big setback for Karnataka's Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. The State High Court has dismissed the challenge to its prosecution in the alleged Mura land scam case. Now, the decision to prosecute him was sanctioned by the Governor Thawar Chand Gehlot. I'm now joined by Pratima Raman from NDTV to tell us more.
It was a quick presentation of the judge there, who was present sharp at 12 noon, and he began to narrate the facts and the findings as far as this case is concerned. He spoke about how the governor did apply his mind. In fact, the application of mind was in abundance, was one of the observations that was made by the judge there. He also went on to talk about how this petition that has been put forth by the Chief Minister challenging the permission for prosecution needs a definite investigation, and also spoke about how the governor can act independently as far as this particular case is concerned. The order does not suffer from non-application of mind. The facts narrated in the petition needs investigation, and hence the petition stands dismissed. Mr. Singhvi, representing the Chief Minister, did ask for extension in terms of the interim stay that was given as far as the jurisdictional courts are concerned, where it was a definite relief for the Chief Minister then. And he sought an extension for about 2 weeks, which was denied by the judge.
Now, the first phase of Mumbai's Metro Line 3 connecting the RA colony to the Bandra Kurla complex is expected to begin in the first week of October. The estimated cost of the project is around 37,275 crore rupees. The Aqua Metro line is expected to reduce road traffic by 35%. And here's my colleague Malika with a comprehensive tour of the new metro station.
I am at the RAJVLR station, which is the last station of Mumbai Metro Line 3. It's the first underground metro corridor in Bombay, which is about to make commute for daily travelers easy, because it has the first phase of this project is going to be operational next month, and the second phase will be operational by March 2025. If I have to buy a ticket from, say, from RA to BKC, this is how it works. So I click on buy ticket, single journey. We go to Bandra Kurla complex, and you pay just 50 rupees. Metro Line 3 is projected to accommodate at least 13 lakh passengers daily, and it is also estimated that 15% of the traffic here will come from suburban railway. Number 2, the most interesting part is that the frequency of this train will be available every 3 to 4 minutes, with 2,500 passengers being ferried per train. Project is approximately 37,000.
Well, all right, that's all the time we have on this edition of Profit 360. Thank you very much for joining in, and do stay with us for more.